The Chemical Brothers are a British electronic music duo composed of Tom Rowlands and Ed Simons, originating in Manchester in 1989. Along with the Prodigy, Fatboy Slim, The Crystal Method, and fellow acts, they were pioneers at bringing the big beat genre to the forefront of pop culture. In the UK, they have had 5 number-1 albums and 13 top 20 singles, including 2 number ones. The duo have won a number of awards throughout their career, including 4 Grammy Awards a year, twice for Best Electronic Dance Album, and in 2001 the Brit Award for Best British Dance Act. History, formation and early career. Ed Simons was born in Herne Hill, South London on June 9, 1970, to a barrister mother and a father who was not around much when Simons was growing up. Simons' 2 main interests when he was young were aeroplanes and musicals. Simons attended 2 South London public schools, Allen's School and Dulwich College. During his school years, he developed a fondness for rare groove and hip-hop music, having frequented a club called the Mud Club from the age of 14. By the time he left school, his 2 main musical interests were 2 Manchester bands, New Order and the Smiths. After finishing school with 11 O-levels and 3 A-levels, he continued on to study history, especially late medieval history, at the University of Manchester. Tom Rowlands, a childhood classmate of Simons, was born on January 11, 1971 in Kingston upon Thames, London. When Rowlands was very young, his family relocated to Henley-on-Thames. He later attended Reading Bluecoat School in Berkshire, during which time he became obsessed with Scotland, developing a fondness for the bagpipes in particular. In his early teens, his interest in music broadened to other genres. Initially, some of his favorites included the Oh What a Lovely War soundtrack, two-tone, the nascent gothic rock genre and the electro sounds of artists such as Kraftwerk, New Order, Cabaret Voltaire, and Heaven 17. He described the first Public Enemy album as the record that probably changed his life, and commented that My Uzi Weighs a Ton was one of the most amazing tracks he had ever heard. Rowlands also started collecting hip-hop records by artists like Eric B. and Schoolie D. Rowlands left school with similar accomplishments to Simons, achieving 9 O-levels and 3 A-levels. For university, he followed Simons to Manchester primarily to immerse himself in its music scene in general and the horse section Nyenda in particular. Rowlands was also in a band called Ariel prior to meeting up with Simons. Ariel was formed in London by Rowlands and his friends Brendan Melk and Matt Berry. Their first single was Sea of Beats, which was essentially a white label. Before Philip Brown set up Ecologic Records, their first promo was Bocadillo. Other songs, released on 12 inches, included Mustn't Grumble, and their most well-known, Roller Coaster. After a year on Ecologic they signed to the record label Deconstruction. They insisted that they get a female singer and they recruited former Expansions frontwoman Sally Ann Marsh, and after some disappointing songs like Let It Slide the band fell apart. One of the last things Ariel did was the song T-Baby, which was remixed by the pair. In regards to the remix, Ed stated that Ariel symbolically ended when Deconstruction asked us for a Dust Brothers remix of an Ariel track. That was the final nail in the coffin. Tom would later say in a TV interview from 1995, "One of the blokes went a bit mad, but now he's back at college, and the other one drives our van." Rowlands and Simons then started to DJ at a club called Naked Under Leather in the back of a pub in 1992, under the alias of the 237 Turbo Nutters. The pair would play hip-hop, techno, and house. Rowlands and Simons called themselves the Dust Brothers, after the U.S. production duo famous for their work with the Beastie Boys. After a while, they began to run out of suitable instrumental hip-hop tracks to use, so they started to make their own. Using a Hitachi hi-fi system, a computer, a sampler, and a keyboard, they recorded Song to the Siren, which sampled This Mortal Coil. Song to the Siren was released on their own record label, called Diamond Records. In October 1992, they pressed 500 white label copies and took them to various dance record shops around London, but none would play it, saying that it was too slow. They sent a copy to London DJ Andrew Wetherill, who made it a permanent fixture in his DJ sets. Weatherall also signed the band to his Junior Boy's Own label. In May 1993, Junior Boy's Own released Song to the Siren. Around June 1993, the Dust Brothers did their first remixes. The first was Package of Peace for Justin Robertson's Lion Rock outfit, followed by tracks for Left Field, Republica, and The Sandals. Late in 1993, the Dust Brothers completed work on their 14th Century Sky EP, released in January 1994. It contained the groundbreaking Chemical Beats, which epitomized the duo's genre-defining big beat sound. The EP also contained One Too Many Mornings, which for the first time showed the less intense, more chilled-out side of the Dust Brothers. Both One Too Many Mornings and Chemical Beats would later appear on their debut album. 14th Century Sky was followed later in 1993 by the My Mercury Mouth EP. Chemical Beats was also part of the soundtrack for the first edition of the Wipeout games series, having been featured in Wipeout for the PlayStation in 1995. In October 1994, the Dust Brothers became resident DJs at the small, but influential Heavenly Sunday Social Club at the Albany Pub in London's Great Portland Street. Noel Gallagher, Paul Weller, James Dean Bradfield, and Tim Burgess were regular visitors. The Dust Brothers were subsequently asked to remix tracks by Manic Street Preachers and the Charlatans, plus Primal Scream's Jailbird, and the Prodigy's Voodoo People. These two remixes received television exposure, being playlisted by MTV Europe's The Party Zone in 1995. Early in 1994, the Dust Brothers were approached in the club one Sunday by Noel Gallagher, from Oasis, who at the time were becoming one of the most prominent guitar bands in Britain. Gallagher told the duo that he had a Balearic-inspired track which he had written and would like the Dust Brothers to remix. However, over time, Gallagher changed his mind, and in the end the brothers did not remix it. In March 1995, the Dust Brothers began their first international tour, which included the United States where they played with Orbital and Underworld then a series of European festivals. Also around this time, the original Dust Brothers threatened legal action over the use of their name, and so Rowlands and Simons had to decide on a new name. They decided to then call themselves the Chemical Brothers after Chemical Beats. In June 1995, they released their fourth single, the first under their new identity. Leave Home was released on Junior Boy's Own, as a preview of the imminent debut album and became the band's first chart hit, peaking at number 17. Exit Planet Dust and Dig Your Own Hole. In July 1995, the Chemical Brothers released their debut album Exit Planet Dust on Freestyle Dust Junior Boy's Own. It entered the UK charts at number 9 and featured guest vocalist Beth Orton on the song Alive Alone. It eventually went on to sell over 1 million copies worldwide, and was used on the soundtrack of the science fiction TV series pilot Virtuality. Shortly after its release, the Chemical Brothers signed to Virgin Records, to which they took their own offshoot label, Freestyle Dust. For their next single, Life is Sweet, released in September 1995, they again used a guest vocalist, featuring their friend Tim Burgess, singer of the Charlatans. It reached number 25 in the UK singles chart. The single was also Select Magazine's Single of the Month for October. The release included a Daft Punk remix of Life is Sweet. The Stone Roses asked the Chemical Brothers to remix Begging You, from their Second Coming album. After beginning work on a remix which they viewed as having potential, the Stone Roses changed their minds and the project was cancelled. In October 1995, the duo returned to the Heavenly Sunday Social for a second and final run of DJ dates. They then became residents at the Heavenly Social on Saturdays at Two Mills. In November, the Chemical Brothers played the Astoria Theatre in London. At this time the brothers usually used a fusion of Chemical Beats, and the Beatles' Tomorrow Never Knows as their encore. During the encore, however, Keith Flint from the Prodigy jumped up on stage to dance, wearing a t-shirt sporting the slogan Occupation, Mad Bastard. A few from the crowd subsequently joined in. This resulted in a power cable being kicked loose, bringing the show to a temporary close. The Chemical Brothers confessed to not being too bothered. Because he's Keith from the Prodigy, and he can do whatever the fucking hell he likes. Just before Christmas, 1995, they played their biggest gig to date, with the Prodigy, at the Brixton Academy. In January 1996, Exit Planet Dust went gold. The Chemical Brothers released their first new material in 6 months on Virgin, the Loops of Fury EP. The 4-track release was limited to 20,000 copies, but is now available for digital download. It entered the UK charts at number 13. NME described the lead track as splashing waves of synths across hard-hitting beats. The EP also contained a Dave Clark remix of Chemical Beats, and 2 other new tracks, Get Up On It Like This, and, the best part of, Breaking Up. In February 1996, Select magazine published a list of the 100 best albums of the 1990s thus far. Exit Planet Dust was listed at number 39. In August 1996, the Chemical Brothers supported Oasis at Knebworth, where 125,000 people attended each of the 2 shows. During the 1995 Glastonbury Festival, Rowlands and Simons had another conversation with Noel Gallagher. Gallagher told them how much he liked Exit Planet Dust, and asked if he could sing on a future track, similar to the way Tim Burgess had worked on Life is Sweet. They did not think much of the offer at the time, given how busy Gallagher would be with the release of Oasis' Morning Glory. Plus the complexities of dealing with each other's record companies. However, the duo later worked on a track which they thought would benefit from having a vocal on it. They sent Gallagher a tape of what they had done so far. He worked on it overnight, and left a message with them early the next morning that he was ready to record it. The track was called Setting Sun, and was finally released in October 1996. It entered the UK charts at the top, giving the duo their first ever #1 single. Setting Sun was backed by a longer instrumental version, and also a new track Buzz Tracks, which was not much more than a DJ tool. The 3 remaining members of the Beatles' lawyers later wrote to the Chemical Brothers, mistakenly claiming that they had sampled Tomorrow Never Knows. Virgin Records hired a musicologist to prove that they did not sample the classic 1960s psychedelic song. Meanwhile, in 1996, Live at the Social Volume 1 was released by Heavenly Records, which became the Chemical Brothers' first mix CD. It was also the duo's first and only live album. In March 1997, the brothers released the second track from their forthcoming album, To Give the World a Further Taste of What to Expect. Block Rockin' Beats went straight to #1 in the UK, possibly thanks, this time, to its Schooly D vocal sample and reworking of the bass line from 23 Skidoo's single Coup. The NME named it Single of the Week, and said it throbs like your head might if you had just done a length underwater in a swimming pool full of amyl. It later won them a Grammy Award for Best Rock Instrumental Performance. In the US at this time, Setting Sun was sitting at number 80 in the Billboard Top 100, after selling around 80,000 copies, an uncommon achievement for a European dance act. Sales from Exit Planet Dust were also around 150,000. On April 7, 1997, the Chemical Brothers released their second album, Dig Your Own Hole. It was recorded at the band's own South London studio, with the title taken from graffiti on the wall outside. The album was well received, with Mixmag rating it 10/10 and calling it mad enough to be thrilling, slick enough for not even remotely trendy coffee tables. During the summer of 1997, the brothers toured extensively, particularly in the United States. They also became residents at Tokyo's Liquid Rooms. In August, the Chemical Brothers achieved rapprochement with the US Dust Brothers, and asked them to remix the forthcoming single Electrobank. They themselves also became highly sought after for remixes for other artists. In September, the next single from Dig Your Own Hole, Electrobank, was released. In November, the pair played at Dublin's Point Theatre, with support from Carl Cox. They also began a US tour in Detroit. At the end of the year, Dig Your Own Hole's final track, the 9-minute-long The Private Psychedelic Reel, gave rise to a limited edition mini-EP of the same name. The B-side consisted of a live version of Setting Sun, recorded at the Lowlands Festival, Netherlands on August 24, 1997. Also in December, following 4 sold-out US shows, the Chemical Brothers toured the UK, finishing with a sold-out gig at London's Brixton Academy. In 1998, they concentrated more on duing, although some remixes did see the light of day, including I Think I'm in Love from Spiritualized. Both a vocal remix and an instrumental remix were included in the single release. Each clocked in at over 7.5 minutes. Another remix completed by the brothers was Delta's Sun Bottleneck Stomp by Mercury Reverend. This was another extension in the association between the two bands, since Mercury Rev's Jonathan Donahue contributed to the private psychedelic reel on Dig Your Own Hole. In September 1998, a second mix album, Brothers Gonna Work It Out, was released. It contains some of their own tracks and remixes, as well as songs from artists who have influenced their sound, such as Renegade Soundwave, Meat Beat Manifesto, Carlos After Dark Barrios, and Kenny Dope Gonzalez. Surrender and Come With Us. In May 1999, the Chemical Brothers played 3 UK dates in Manchester, Sheffield and Brighton, their first since December 1997. Also that month, they released their first new original material in 2 years, a track called Hey Boy, Hey Girl. This was more house-influenced than hip-hop. In interviews at the time, Rowlands and Simons indicated that the track was inspired by nights out at Sheffield club Gatecrasher. The track was also one of their more commercially accessible tracks and went to number 3 in the UK charts. Their third album, Surrender, was released in June 1999. It featured vocals from Noel Gallagher, Mercury Rev's Jonathan Donahue, and Mazzy Star's Hope Sandoval. As Hey Boy, Hey Girl had suggested, the album was more house-oriented than the previous 2. On one of the album's standout tracks, Out of Control, New Order's Bernard Sumner supported by Primal Scream's Bobby Gillespie provided vocals. It reached number 1 in the UK album charts. The Michel Gondry-directed music video for Let Forever Be, which utilized groundbreaking video and film effects in its depiction of a young woman's nightmares, also received a lot of attention. Later that summer, the brothers performed at the infamous Woodstock '99 concert on July 24, with positive reception. They later headlined the Glastonbury Dance Tent on the Friday night, followed by a UK tour which ended in December and included Homeland Scotland on September 4. In November, Out of Control, featuring Sumner and Gillespie on vocals, was released as a single. The release also contained the Sasha remix. The final single from Surrender, in February 2000, was the 5-track Music, Response EP, containing the title track and 2 remixes, plus Electronic Battle Weapon 4, named Freak of the Week, and a track called Enjoyed, which was essentially a remix of Out of Control by the brothers themselves. A CD copy of Surrender was placed in the 3rd Blue Peter time capsule, buried in January 2000. That same month, they appeared on Primal Scream's album XTRMNT at track 11 with a remix. In June 2000, Tom and Ed played the Pyramid stage at the Glastonbury Festival. In August 2000 they played to a large crowd at the main stage at Creamfields Festival, Ireland. In December 2000, the Chemical Brothers aired one of their new tracks, It Began in Africa at their New York DJ gigs, supporting U2. In 2001, they were quite active with releases and live performances. Early in the year, they began working on a 4th album, provisionally titled Chemical 4. The first track which fans got a taste of was It Began in Africa, as previously played in their DJ set in New York. The track would make its live debut in California in April 2001, at the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival. Another new track, Galaxy Bounce, also got its public debut at Coachella. As had become customary for their releases and experiments, It Began in Africa was first pressed as a promo, as part of the Electronic Battle Weapon series. It received much airplay on dance music radio shows in the UK, and became more and more popular in clubs over the course of the summer. It also became one of the anthems in Ibiza as the summer progressed. It was given a full commercial single release in September, reaching number 8 in the UK singles chart, even though no promotional video was made for the track. Rowlands and Simons also remixed a track from Fatboy Slim's Halfway Between the Gutter and the Stars, entitled Song for Shelter. This remix was released as a single on September 3, 2001 as the CD2 single for Song for Shelter / Ya Mama. It reached number 30 in the UK singles charts. The Chemical Brothers finished work on another album, Come With Us, in October 2001. It featured collaborations with Richard Ashcroft of The Verve, and longtime collaborator Beth Orton. The album was released in January 2002, preceded by a single, Star Guitar, a melodic Balearic beat number, with a promotional video by Michel Gondry that featured passing scenery synchronized to the beat viewed through a train window. What would be the second track on the album, It Began in Africa, was released September 10, 2001 to be circulated around the clubbing scene where it was a popular hit. Star Guitar was also released as a DVD single, the pair's first. Come With Us was less well received than their previous albums, but nonetheless went straight to number 1 in the UK albums chart in the first week of its release, selling 100,000 copies. In April, the title track from the album was released as a single with remixes by Fatboy Slim as part of a double A-sided release with The Test. During the summer of 2002, the Chemical Brothers traveled the festival circuit to promote the album. Later in 2002, they released 2 EPs, one specifically aimed at Japan and the other the US. Both contained remixes, live versions and B-sides. Additionally, the band produced New Order's final non-album single Here to Stay, and remixed the song as well. One of their other major songs from this album was Galaxy Bounce, which was popular and featured as the main title music for the XBOX game project Gotham Racing. It was also included on the soundtrack for the movie Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. Star Guitar was featured as a song on the PSP's Lumines 2. 2 other songs, Come With Us, and Star Guitar, were featured on a PlayStation 2 racing game titled WRC2, Extreme. Both songs are instrumental. The song My Elastic Eye from the Come With Us album was played in the 2004 movie The Butterfly Effect starring Ashton Kutcher and Amy Smart. Push the Button, late 2002 and early 2003 saw Rowlands and Simons back in the studio working on new material, including The Golden Path, a collaboration with Wayne Coyne, the lead singer of the Flaming Lips. This was released in September 2003, at the same time as a best-of album, entitled Singles 93-03, marking 10 years of the Chemical Brothers' releases. Singles 93-03 included most, but not all, of their singles. A second new track, in addition to The Golden Path, was included on the album, called Get Yourself High. Singles 93-03 was also released on DVD, with extra features including selected live performances and interviews with Rowlands, Simons, and many of their collaborators from throughout the period. Get Yourself High, which featured Canadian rapper KOs on vocals, was released as a single in November 2003. In late 2003 and 2004, the Chemical Brothers continued to work in the studio on new material and a remix of Slow by Kylie Minogue. After being released on rare white label vinyl, it was subsequently given a commercial release in March on CD and on exclusive 12" vinyl picture disc. In summer 2004 they returned to the festival circuit, including appearances at the Glastonbury Festival, Tokyo, Scotland, and Ireland. They also visited South America for the second time, arriving at Chile, Argentina, and Brazil. It was during these sets that they played new material, including Acid Children, which proved to be one of the most popular new tracks. In September 2004, the Chemical Brothers released the 7th Electronic Battle Weapon. Electronic Battle Weapon 7" was being released as a one-sided promo-only 12, containing Acid Children. A marked departure from the Chemical Brothers' previous musical endeavors, it featured a screeching 303 bass line and a distinctive vocal sample. A pitch-altered vocal sample proclaiming "You are all my children now," which is lifted from the horror film A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. It was coupled with the projection of a sinister clown mouthing these same words at their live gigs. The Electronic Battle Weapons series of promo releases have typically been newly recorded Chemical Brothers tracks, released on promo to allow DJs to test them in a club environment, and to gauge their popularity. In 2004, the Chemical Brothers began work on Push the Button, their fifth studio album, which features collaborations with Tim Burgess, Keal O'Kerrick, and Anwar Superstar, amongst others. The album was released on January 24, 2005. Galvanize, which features rapper Q-Tip on vocals, was the first single to be taken from Push the Button, and premiered exclusively on iTunes. The single was released on January 17, 2005, and entered the UK chart at number 3. The second single, Relieve, failed to crack the top 10, but still made it into the top 20, peaking at number 18. The Boxer, featuring Tim Burgess, became the duo's first single to fail to crack the top 40. The album and single Galvanize won a Grammy at the Grammy Awards of 2006. One of the songs in this album, The Big Jump, appears in the video game Burnout Revenge, as well as Project Gotham Racing 3. The track's Surface to Air features a pulsing chord progression and bassline reminiscent of the intro to the Strokes song The Modern Age. An unofficial, remixed version of the album entitled Flip the Switch was released as a free download, along with the Believe EP, featuring 6 further remixes of Believe. In September 2006, the Chemical Brothers were revealed as the first musicians to be involved in Tate Tracks. Tate Modern invited various groups and songwriters to choose a work that inspired them from the gallery's collection of modern art and then write a track about it. The Chemical Brothers' submission, Rock Drill, was inspired by the Jacob Epstein sculpture Torso in Metal from the Rock Drill, and could be heard on headphones in front of the work in the gallery. From October 2006, it also became available to hear online at the Tate Tracks website. We Are the Night, the brothers announced in June 2006 on their official web forum that the duo had been working on fresh material, specifically an album, codenamed Chemical 6. Simons also wrote that the band would be playing select venues in the summer 2007 season, specifying Rome, and also Fabric in London. Simons is also quoted as saying that the duo are hoping to put a battle weapon out for the summer, possibly referring to the Electronic Battle Weapon series, the somewhat experimental tracks the band occasionally release on white label. Electronic Battle Weapons 8 and 9 were debuted on Pete Tong's BBC Radio 1 show on December 8, 2006. The double-sided vinyl was finally released just before the Chemical Brothers' much-anticipated New Year's Eve gig at the famous Mills in London. The vinyl had a limited edition release worldwide and has been received well by fans, DJs, and critics alike. Electronic Battle Weapon 8, at about 6.5 minutes, is very distinct from the big acid style that the earlier battle weapons adhered to. It is characterized by thundering drums with a rising synth line. A version of this track features on the We Are the Night album and is entitled Saturate. Electronic Battle Weapon 9 Inches is a typical Chemicals dance floor track with their trademark vocoder vocals coupled with sirens and a basic tribal melody. At the same Mills gig, the brothers also played a previously unreleased song at midnight to welcome 2007, which went down well with the crowd. This track eventually emerged as Burst Generator, found on the forthcoming album We Are the Night. Many were left wondering if the latest in the Electronic Battle Weapons series were simply one-off experiments or signal a new direction they could take with a new album, perhaps swaying from their genre-defining big beat albums of the past. The song was also the band's 100th released song. On March 21, 2007, the Chemical Brothers officially announced their forthcoming album on MySpace. The new album, entitled We Are the Night, was released on July 2, 2007 in the United Kingdom and July 17, 2007 in the United States. The Chemical Brothers cited a delay in the production of artwork for this delay. EMI subsequently released an online Chemical Brothers computer game as an apology. The track listing was released to the fans on the official mailing list on April 10. The new album is heavily collaborated, with the likes of Klaxons, Midlake, Ali Love, and Willie Mason. On April 12, 2007, Pete Tong again had the privilege of giving the world the very first preview of a Chemicals track. This time it was the first single Do It Again off their new album, aired on his BBC Radio 1 and New Music We Trust show. The official release of the single was June 4 and June 14. The album went on general release in the UK on July 2, 2007. In September 2007, the Chemical Brothers played a free live gig in Trafalgar Square as part of the Beck's Fusions event. All who attended were provided with 3D glasses to view the on-screen visual effects. In 2008, the Chemical Brothers' music was featured in a movie adaptation of Irvine Welsh's best-selling novel Ecstasy, Three Tales of Chemical Romance. The Chemical Brothers supplied a new track for the Heroes soundtrack, titled Keep My Composure. Further, Hannah, Don't Think and Black Swan, on March 30, 2010. The band announced on their website that their seventh studio album, titled Further, would be released on June 22 and would be the band's first to be released with corresponding films made specifically to match each of the 8 audio tracks. The films were made with longtime visuals collaborators Adam Smith and Marcus Leuel. The album was described as their most psychedelic and melodic to date. Before the release of the album, the band played 4 shows in May at the London Roundhouse where they played the album and its accompanying films in their entirety. The films featured on a special edition DVD and on the iTunes LP edition. Most reviews have been positive, with BBC Music declaring that synths are brutally manhandled and pushed to their limits across the 8 tracks. The Irish Times reported that this is a very impressive collection that is carried along with a stirring sense of velocity and momentum. However, praise was not unanimous for the album, with the American rock magazine Spin giving it a rating of 3 out of 5 stars. At the New York Comic Con, on October 10, 2010, English film director Joe Wright announced that the Chemical Brothers would be scoring the soundtrack to his upcoming film, Hannah. Wright, who had worked with the Chemical Brothers in the past as a member of the visual company Vegetable Vision, stated that he was very excited to finally work with a more modern beat. There's a lot of bass, it's very loud. The soundtrack was released exclusively on iTunes on March 15, 2011 and on CD on July 4, 2011. 2 weeks after the announcement regarding Hannah, rumors began circulating that the Chemical Brothers had recorded part of the score for the movie Black Swan, after a post in Ed Simon's Twitter account. A second post on the Chemical Brothers' own Twitter account seemed to confirm this. On November 22, 2010, a Black Swan music video was released along with the movie trailer. This featured a different version of the track Don't Think, and announced that the movie would feature new music from the Chemical Brothers, along with a handful of other artists. The next day, the names of the 8 tracks not composed by Clint Mansell Black Swan's main composer were released, listing the Chemical Brothers as contributing 3 new songs for the movie. On November 29, an exclusive video was posted on RollingStone.com, containing more footage of the alternate version of Don't Think. Mansell's work was released the next day. No announcement has been made yet on whether the original tracks not by Mansell would be given a release or not. On March 7, 2012, it was announced that the Chemical Brothers would be scoring their second movie soundtrack, for the bank heist film Now You See Me. However, this was later denied by Tom Rowlands, who stated that the band was in talks at an early stage, but had to pull out of the project due to scheduling conflicts. Live, the Chemical Brothers are credited as being one of the few truly arena-sized electronic acts. Their live acts comprise large screens displaying psychedelic images, strobe lights, and lasers that project over the crowd. There has been speculation over how much of their live gigs are pre-recorded, although they insist that they have a mere outline of track order and the rest is mixed live. This would seem to be confirmed by concertgoers who have seen gigs on consecutive nights and have posted notable differences between the sets played. The brothers have also played at many major festivals, including Glastonbury, Fuji Rock, Reading, the Festival, and Leeds Festival. They currently hold the record for most gigs performed in a year at the Brixton Academy. The Chems have infamously, despite their high status in the mainstream, never appeared on Top of the Pops, with the use of music videos to replace the performance, sometimes accompanied by a video apologizing for their absence. In 1999, A live US tour video of Hey Boy, Hey Girl was shown, even though the song was not in the top 40 at the time, and also released other singles before then at the time. In addition to performing their own music, they also hold regular DJ nights where they mix other artists' tracks. As with their recorded albums, the Chemical Brothers are well known for their incorporation of guest vocalists into their live performances. Notable appearances in recent gigs have included Bernard Sumner of New Order, who sang on the original Out of Control, Wayne Coyne of the Flaming Lips, and Tim Burgess. Logo: the typeface used to write the typical The Chemical Brothers logo is derived from Show, designed by Carl Georg Hofer in 1992. The Chemical Brothers' original logo differs only in a few details from orthodox Show, for example in the letters A and B. Mergenthaler Linotype Company holds the license for this typeface. Discography: studio albums, Exit Planet Dust, Dig Your Own Hole, Surrender, Come With Us, Push the Button, We Are the Night, Further, Hannah. Live albums, Don't Think, main compilation albums, Brothers Gonna Work It Out, singles 93-03, Brotherhood, Tom Rowlands, Through Me/Nothing But Pleasure, references. External links: official website, The Chemical Brothers discography at Discogs, The Chemical Brothers at the Internet Movie Database, Don't Think the Movie.